Today, we are going to take a very quick tour of tacl, understand what is tacl and what are the features tacl offers. Tacl is actually a no-code test automation platform based on Playwright. It allows anyone to perform end-to-end testing of web applications without writing any single line of code. It actually simplifies the process of creating, maintaining, and running the tests. Now let's see how can we do this with tacl. Now, as soon as you have created a project and when you select the project, you would be navigated to the workspace of that specific project. Now, the first section in the workspace is actually the web elements. Now, this is the place where you basically create all the web elements associated to the test cases that would be actually part of this particular project. Now, in the test automation field, this is actually called as the forms concept, the page object model, where you group actually the UI elements associated to a particular page in a class. Now, in tacl, what you can also do is you can actually create the actions and assertions of that particular web element directly in the web elements repository itself. So this is basically a centralized web elements repository that could be reused in multiple test cases. Now, this is how one of the ways that tacl uses in order to reduce basically the maintenance activities. Now, in order to create actually a web element, all you have to do is actually select the identified by. This is actually the locator of the Playwright, and tacl supports most of the locators that is actually supported by the Playwright. Now, all you do is you select that respective identify by, and then you just actually configure the informations that as per your need in order to basically locate the element. Now, once you have created the element, you can also create actions or assertions, and you can create multiple actions and multiple assertions on a single web element so that it could be reused in multiple test cases as per the need. Now, tacl comes with lots of pre-built actions and a lot of pre-built assertions. So these are all mostly the actions and assertions supported by the Playwright, and you could just actually use them by just simply configuring it and not writing detailed code in order to do this. Now, once you have created actually the web elements, now the actions and the assertions, so the next thing that you would be doing is actually creating the test cases. Now, in tacl, we actually have a visual UI builder in order to create the test cases. Now, you can simply add the web elements or the actions and the assertions that you have created directly in your test case by just simply selecting the web elements and the associated actions involved in it. It's as simple as that in order to create the test cases. Now, once you have created basically the test cases, you would be running it. And in tacl, we also provide actually the cloud execution directly. So you can simply actually run the test cases directly from your dashboard. Now, when you run the test cases, you would be able to see the results of the test case in the test results screen, which is giving you the details of in which browser it has run and whether it was run locally or actually in the cloud platform. Now, having said that, we haven't talked about the local execution. So now tacl also provides actually the CLI in order to run the tests locally as well. Now, this is how you actually create the web elements and the associated actions and assertions and group them together as a test in your test cases and then simply run them in our cloud infrastructure. Now, you can also do further optimizations on all these tests what you're performing. Now, one of the things is actually the variables and datasets basically. Now, the variables and datasets allows you to transform your test as a data-driven approach. Now, you can create sets of variables and provide default values for it, and you can also create a set of those variables with the different values so that you could run your tests in multiple test data basically. And the next section what you have is the modules, and this is really one of the most important sections as well, because modules is nothing but a group of a set of steps that you could group them together and could be reused in multiple test cases. Now let's take a simple example of a login and a logout. Now, in most of your test cases, maybe you have actually the first step as the login and then the last step as the logout. Now, instead of actually putting all those login and logout in multiple test cases, what you can do is you can create them as a module. Now, once you have created them as a module, now this module could be reused in your multiple test cases. So now what happens here is this allows even more, it simplifies the maintenance of the test automation even more. So now we have actually the web elements, which is a centralized web elements. So if we make any changes in the web elements, it would be reflected in the modules and test cases as well. And then you have the module section. Now when you make any changes in the modules, it would be reflected in all the test cases where the modules is used. Now this is how actually tacl simplifies the development and the maintenance of the test cases. So now coming to the test suites section. Now if you have more than one test case which you would like to group it and run it together, now you can actually use this in the test suite section where you can create multiple test suites and run a set of tests basically together. Now let's say that you wanted to actually run the test with different configurations, and that is where execution profile comes into picture. This is very similar to Playwright. So you can create multiple execution profiles and run the tests with multiple profiles as well. And we have the settings section where we have currently the API keys in order to integrate with the local execution. And we also have the email reports where you can actually send the report of the test cases or the test suites to a certain group of email IDs. Now these are the main features that we currently have, and we are actually keep on building the new features. There will be a lot of things coming in this integrations area, and also we are working on very cool interesting AI features, so stay tuned. Now let's actually try to run a test and basically see. Now in order to run a test, you simply go to the test case and click on the run test. Now here I'm just going to select the default execution profile, and I wanted to run this. I'm going to run this in production, so I have already created a data set for production. I'll select production and then no test reports, and then let's go and then click on the run. Now as soon as you have clicked this, you would be actually seeing that in the test run that the tacl is actually spinning up a server for you in order to run the tests. And then the default profile is basically allowing you to run the test in just one browser, but you can as I said before, you can create multiple profiles in order to execute it. So now here we have run with the dataset production, and actually we have run this test in the Chrome browser, and this has run on the tacl cloud infrastructure. And there is one step which is actually a screenshot, and you would be able to actually see the screenshots as well. Now we have not actually able to see the video. Now let's say that we wanted to record this. Now what we can do is we can actually go to the execution profile and select the record to on. Let's say that I just wanted to run it only in the Chrome browser for now, and then I would click on the save, and I'm going to actually run the same test now using this execution profile. Now let's do the same thing. Let's go ahead and run the test and select the prod execution profile and the dataset as well as production, and then run the tests. Now this time what would happen is that the test would be running actually with the execution profile what we have selected, which means by the end of this test you should be able to actually see the video, because in this execution profile the record video is basically on. So now let's see if this is really the case, and here we go. So now we would be able to actually see what it has basically tested as well over here. Perfect. But this is very interesting. But when we are actually developing, it would be really cool to run this test actually in the local machine rather than running this basically on the cloud. So we always, even when we were developing it, we felt that it would be really cool to see actually the execution in the local machine, and it really helps and speeds up basically the development process. Now let's see that how can we run the same test case what we have created actually in the cloud infrastructure in our local machine. Now I have actually set up the project already. This is very simple. You just actually create a folder and you create a .env file and then put your API key over there, and that's it. You're basically ready to go. And tacl comes with an npx command. All you need to do is run the npx command. Now let's go ahead and execute that test in our local machine. So the tacl comes with an npx at tacl/runner, and now to this command you have to actually tell the test case that you wanted to run. So this could be provided with a -t option, and when you go to the tacl dashboard, you would be seeing actually an icon where you could actually copy the test case identifier. So let me copy this test case identifier, come back and then paste this over here. And I also have to run this with the production dataset. So I give this -d option, and now let's again go back to the screen and copy actually the identifier of the production dataset, and then provide it over here, and then just click on enter. And boom, here we go. So now this test is basically running with the default execution profile, and then the test is completed, and you would be able to see basically the test results over here, where you can basically see the screenshot of this step. This is one of the last step of the login module, so you can also see the screenshots over here. Now if you wanted to record it, it's the same. You create basically the execution profile with the recording, and then you would be able to see the recording video as well. Now let's see how we can use this execution profile. So let's say that I wanted to run this in Chrome and Firefox, and I wanted to record the video, so that is on. So I save this execution profile and I copy this execution profile ID, and then go ahead and execute the same command, but this time also pass the execution profile ID over here. So this should now start the tests in two browsers, Chrome and Firefox, in your local machine, which is basically running both the tests, and you would be able to see this time also the video, which is actually recorded once the test is basically completed. But we are still not able to actually see the browser. It would be good actually to see the browser as well over here. Now there are multiple options to do this. You go ahead and set actually the headless to false, and if you run the same test with the execution profile, that is also possible. But what we can also do is I'm just going to pass actually an -H option, so that it basically runs in a headful mode. So now we should be able to see two browsers that's actually opening and running the test. Wow, that was too fast that it just completed both the tests actually in local. But that was really fast. You know what? Let's slow this down a little bit. I'm giving actually an -AD, which is an action delay. And let's say that I wanted to actually give a delay of 1 second between each steps. So now the same test should be running with actually a delay of the seconds. Perfect. Now both the tests has been completed. Now this is how basically you can run the tests locally. The test whatever you have created in the tacl cloud platform, you can run it locally and see what is actually really happening by opening the browser in your real machine. Now there are lots of more features actually we have planned, and it is basically on the pipeline, and we would be very interested to know what do you think about the product, and if you like it, please make sure to subscribe to our channel. And in the next episode we would be going through more in detail of each and every sections that we have quickly seen over here. And happy tackling, guys. Thank you very much.